to number 5, which is in this particular one, I've asked you to provide your favourite track by a band you have supported.
Yes, and it's a band that we've already talked about that, appeared at Noise and Confusion. A band that I've loved. I grew up on a lot of rock music, like I've said, but the first band that was ever really my band was Nirvana.
Yeah.
I'd loved Oasis and that kind of thing, but my family all kind of dug Oasis. And Nirvana, it was the first band where I was like kind of alienated from the family group because they were like, what are you playing? And it was my record and I was defiant. I loved Nevermind. And I love Dave Grohl. And then I sort of went, I hop, skip, jump Pixies and Smashing Pumpkins. And then, I really got into Foo Fighters. And so when we was first starting out as a band, we'd cover some Foo Fighters songs and we'd always harbor these dreams that, one day we'd be supporting Foo Fighters. And we got to support two of our heroes, Foo Fighters and Oasis at Noise and Confusion. This one song by Foo Fighters, which is Everlong, has attached itself to my consciousness and just never really let go. There's something about it that's so that mashes all the great power in not just in the production, but kind of in the phrasing and the melody and the guitar sounds, but notably the drum sounds and everything. But it's also so wonderfully melancholic and bittersweet and beautiful, and it's a love song that kind of masquerades as like a heavy rock song. And I, as you can probably tell, we do that quite a lot in our music, especially on All or Nothing. A lot of love and a lot of breakup songs that kind of masquerade as kind of pseudo metal, like classic rock, and then kind of pop punky sounds
underneath and you're like, hang on a second,
this is really sad. So Everlong is a huge song for me. It could have been Big Me, because when we played Noise and Confusion and Foo Fighters were playing, we were watching from out front by the sound desk, and Dave Grohl's like, I'm dedicating this next song to the Subways. And then he played Big Me, and we were just like, oh my God. And after our performance at that gig, actually, my dad, who's our drum tech, he came running over and was like, Dave Grohl was side of stage for your set, for the whole set. And we got back to our dressing room and there was this little note saying, hey, the Subways, we loved your music. It was really great. After our set, come by and say hello, which we did. But also a good couple of years after that, we played with them again at Lancashire Cricket Ground. And before we played our set there, we'd had a month off. I think I'd really ruined my voice and I needed to take a month off. We'd cancelled a few shows, including one in Bristol, actually. And I remember pulling away from the venue and just seeing all the people lined up outside Bristol Academy and just crying, because I was like, they don't even know that the gig's not happening and I feel so guilty. And I pledged from that point that I would never ever cancel a gig again if I could help it. And even if I don't have a voice, we will play. Charlotte will sing or Josh will try and sing or whatever, because I don't want to ever go through that feeling again. But so we played with Foo Fighters again at Lancashire Cricket Ground, and Dave's manager came around all the dressing rooms of all the sport bands and said, okay, you see that big catwalk out the front? Okay, nobody goes out on that catwalk. That's Dave's.
I know where this is going.
Yeah, there's a special moment in the set where Dave is going to put on his guitar, he's going to walk out on the catwalk, he's going to play Everlong, and it's a big moment, right? And you don't spoil it. So, we're in front of 70,000 people, we're on stage, we haven't played for a month. I'm suddenly feeling better, my voice is back at its peak. And we're halfway through Oh Yeah, and which is the first song in the set, and I think, throw my guitar down, because everyone's started going really crazy, and I've run the whole length of the catwalk and I've dived into the crowd and everyone's gone, way. I've been thrown back on stage, and I just thought, fuck, Dave Grohl's gonna kill me, and he nearly did. I was getting close to the dressing room door, because my dad after the set had been like, Dave, Dave's looking for you. He's come storming down. I thought, I don't want to be told off by Dave Grohl. He's like my hero. So I got to the dressing room door after sneaking around, and I just turned the door handle, and I had Subway, man. And it's Dave kind of bounding down the hallway, and he gave me a big hug. He was like, that was an amazing set, but don't ever go on my catwalk again. And now every time I listen to Everlong, I think of Dave on the catwalk playing Everlong. And it's a nice little attachment to like all those years previous when I'd listen to that song, and I'd kind of like, I'd dream of writing a song that good. But I just feel so lucky to have been a part of Dave Grohl's narrative, even briefly.
I remember that that gig. I didn't go to that gig, but didn't the Strokes play as well?
The Strokes did play, yeah. It was a great show.
Devastated I didn't go to that, because I think
that was their bet. That was right after First Impressions of Earth. And they kind of like, the first two records were beautiful, but when they play live, they would just be a bit like, you know. But after First Impressions of Earth, they were killing it on stage. They rocked, absolutely rocked it.
But no, the catwalk thing. The reason I knew where you were going with that is I think that was the In Your Honor tour, wasn't it?
What's that?
I think that was the In Your Honor tour that they were.
Right, yeah, it probably is. It probably is. I'm trying to,
because I think because that was the northern big gig, and the southern one was in Hyde Park.
Oh right.
They filmed live, which had Juliet and the Licks, Angels and Airwaves, Motorhead, Queens of the Stone Age, and Foos. Yeah. And I did go to that one because it was a lot closer to home.
Yeah.
I remember two very distinct parts of that set. One was the Everlong segment where he literally, and I don't know if it was a longer catwalk for this one. Right. Because he made sure it was there was a gold section and a general standing. Yeah. And the catwalk came out all the way into the general standing section. Yeah. And sat on a stool, played most of Everlong just on an acoustic, and then stormed back. Like, yeah. And wow. And then my other memory from that gig was Brian May and Roger Taylor came on, and Taylor sang. Because he does a fantastic Freddie Mercury.
Oh really?
Yeah. And they did Tie Your Mother Down, which is
amazing
songs of all time. And I literally, as soon as I heard the opening riff, I called my mum and held the phone up, and then
I love those moments at gigs. You're like, answer your phone.
And then at the end, because I couldn't hear anything. At the end, I just said, "Oh, you enjoyed that," and put it down. And I spoke to her later, and she said it was actually on the answer phone.
Oh, well, at least it got recorded. It got recorded though, didn't it?
So I only recorded like the first 30 seconds. But yeah, I completely get it with Everlong. You know, Foo Fighters are one of the best bands I've ever seen play live. Because
spectacular. Like, they set the standard, and so many times we've seen them play. You know, we've got so many stories because we'd be doing tours, we'd be doing festival slots, and they'd be doing festival slots. We played a festival in Germany when it was Hurricane Southside. So there are two. You play either Southside Fair. It's kind of like the Reading and Leeds of Germany. Right, yeah. So one gig we played at the same time as Arctic Monkeys, and the next night we played at the same time as Foo Fighters. I don't know why those timings weren't exactly the same, but it was like Arctic Monkeys, then Foo Fighters. And we were kind of like semi-headlining the smaller stage. Yeah. And we thought we were going to be playing to nobody, but people came to see us. And I remember saying down the microphone, like, "What are you doing here? Foo Fighters are playing over there."
I remember I complete like distraction from what we're actually talking about, but on the same level. I remember I can't remember what year it was at Reading and Leeds, but at Reading, the night Radiohead were headlining, Deadmau5 was supposed to be headlining the dance stage,
right?
and this thing got circulated.
Was it 2009?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah,
because I saw LaRue instead of Radiohead.
yeah. Well, a few of my friends went to see LaRue instead as well. A thing got circulated around the campsite really early in the morning, saying deadmau5 had not pulled out, but he was going to go second, as in second in the day, like really early, like in the afternoon, so that he could go and watch Radiohead.
Oh,
and I was
I like it. I like him a lot. And you know, some people have a problem with deadmau5, but I've got a bit of a soft spot for him.
I've lost touch with it a little bit more recently, but certainly maybe his first sort of 3 or 4 years worth of stuff.
Yeah,
I really liked. But it felt like, to me, it felt like a bit of a progression, not a progression in terms of better, but a movement in terms of more modern version of Daft Punk.
For sure.
Being able to cross boundaries between people who like guitar music and people who like dance music.
Some funk in there and disco, and
exactly.
I have a big soft spot for disco. I mean, a lot. I remember during 2004, 2005, just as we started coming around, there was this big spate of people wearing t-shirts. Like Jet did it a lot. They'd wear t-shirts saying "disco sucks," and it was just like really cool to deride disco. I was like, you losers! Disco is one of the best kinds of music. Like you're missing out on so many grooves.
I mean that was the whole point of the genre. The genre was to make you move. So
dance floor killers, man.
Right, so the next track this is your flip it on its head. Favorite track by a band that supported you?
Yeah. Now, when we first started out, after we recorded our first album, we did a huge UK tour, and we asked a band called The Kooks to come and support us. And we had so much fun. We asked them to support us again in 2006, and we had an amazing couple of years together. They are just such beautiful people, and also just watching them play before we went on stage, because they're quite a different band. You know, they play their songs, and it was just really sort of gorgeous listening. And again, like real pop hooks. And then we go on and we just kind of like blitz and sweat the hell out of it. And
different type of energy, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. So it was, kind of felt like we were giving the audiences like something really nice, really special. You know, you turn up, you see the Kooks, sing-alongs, beautiful tracks, and then we come on and then we just kind of like everyone mosh. But that every time we sort of played a new gig, I would have a new favorite track. I'd be like, I think this is my favorite Kook song, and then the next day I'd be like, no, I think this is my favorite Kook song. And that's how you know a good band, because they've got like a breadth of material. But there was one song that was really, really special, and that's Naive. And I hear that song now, and it's not just that it's such a beautiful pop song, but it's so well constructed and by 4 chaps who know exactly what they're doing when they pick up their instruments. But I think I've got all those days that I spent with them, all those experiences, all those mistakes that we made together, all those memories, and sometimes it's quite painful, but it's a joyful kind of pain that I think of when I hear the music, because you think, God, those were the days, weren't they? And you look back with such fond memories, and you think that they're lost, but they're not lost, because they're there in the music. You know, every time I listen to the music, I relive those days all over again. But every now and then I'll just be I'll be hanging around the studio and I'll pick up my guitar and I'll have to play Naive, because there's just something about those chords and that melody.
There's 2 things with Naive that I've always had. Is Naive for me is very similar, actually, in terms of how it makes me feel to with you.
Oh, right. Great. Okay.
Because if I'm in a particular mood or I'm listening to it for a particular reason, I'll have a tear in my eye. But if I'm in another particular mood, both of those songs will also put a smile on my face. And the other thing I've always found with Naive as well is it's one of very few songs, actually, I always struggle not to couple in my head with the video. The video is quite, because it hit such a a heartstring at the time, because it kind of, if I remember correctly, it kind of covered this guy and this girl and them sort of seeming to break up at a gig, and
he's walking through the crowd in a bar, and
and that, when you're in those kind of teenage angst, early 20s angst years, like I was like, wow, these people get it.
They get the pining, they get the need, the desire,
so I mean, I think the Kooks very unfairly got a bit of a bum rep from
definitely
the kind of people that we were talking about earlier, that were kind of like the in-crowd people who
very sniffy, very snobby,
just because they seemed a little bit more well-to-do in terms of certain things and what have you, but you listen to you're right, you listen to their songs, particularly on that first album, and they are sort of powerhouse.
And one thing that a lot of people don't know about the Kooks, and especially Luke and Hugh, is that these guys are huge music fans. I mean, like, huge. I'd go out, like, Luke would take me out, and I'm just like a year or 2 years older than Luke, but he'd sort of take me to Carnaby Street, and we'd go to record stores and just filter through records, and then we'd go to bars and watch a blues gig, and the guy knows his stuff, and he can sing, like, he can sing a blues, like, his voice is special.
Well, I mean, you can tell that from the music they produced. That's why I just think it was such an arrogant attitude, and it was quite, it wasn't just a few people, it was quite a prevalent attitude, that
it was widespread. It was in, like, the paper, in the music media, and by some bands that called them out unfairly, I think. Like, I remember Johnny Burrell calling the Kooks out and being really crude about them, and it's like, they're 10 years younger than you. I don't think you should really be talking about them in that respect. But it just felt a bit petulant and a bit jealous.
But the one thing I would always say is that no matter what people's attitude to the Kooks are, this is a song that if you go, come on, Naive, everybody goes, yeah.
Put it on. Everyone will be singing, regardless of what they think of the Kooks. They'll be singing that song.
I mean, I remember on occasion when you sort of meet up with friends that I've not seen in a while, and we'll be like, right, let's go to the usual club we used to when we were 18, 20. And it's always on at some point during the night, and we're always singing at the top of our voices to the extent where we can't speak the next day. It's one of those tracks. So I can completely understand why that's been picked. I think it's a bit odd, really. I can't actually remember who I've seen support you. I mean, obviously, the first few times I saw you were supporting other people. But in the few gigs I've seen you where you've been the main act.
Which years do you remember?
One I definitely So this is a gig that I have a little story for as well. Is I remember you playing at you did a warm-up gig at Reading University in 2008. And the reason I remember this is because you after the gig I was sat on a curb with outside with one of my friends, waiting for a couple of people I think had gone in to go to the loo before we walked back to halls, and you popped out, and we're like, oh, thanks, man, like, really great gig, and you said, oh, hang on a second, disappeared onto the bus, came back out with a crate of Budweiser, and we just sat on this curb for about half an hour just chatting away about the gig.
Oh, wicked.
But what was quite amusing about it is you were about to play Download Festival, and you'd found out that Kiss were headlining. So had decided you were going to dress as Kiss, and you went, oh, guys, you got to see this. And what happened is after the gig, Charlotte had gone to the toilets to test out her makeup, as she was going to be she was going to be Star Child.
Yeah.
And you went, oh, what do you think it is? But don't tell her when she comes out that I've shown you. And all I remember is going, oh yeah, it looks really cool. And my mate went, it's the wrong eye.
Yeah, because she'd done it in the mirror. Yeah, it's true. Because she'd done it in the mirror and she had the photo there, she thought, I'm doing it on the right eye. Well picked up. Very well picked up.
I cannot, for the life of me, remember who supported you that night.
It might have been Cage the Elephant. I mean, around that time, 2008. It might have been,
actually. Yeah, you could be right, actually. But yeah, I remember the Kooks supporting you. I don't think I saw you on that tour because they were the years when I was seeing you with supporting other people. Or, you know, when I first saw you at Reading Festival in 2006 as well, which was my first Reading.
Oh, wow.
And I remember all weekend, all of my friends, we'd gone everywhere together.
Yeah.
And they went off to go and see someone else when you guys were on. I'm like, not So me and somebody else, me and one of my friends just went off and disappeared into the abyss, into
the mass.
Yeah, that was quite a gig. Yeah, so I completely agree with you. Naive is a fantastic track, and yeah, I'm glad you agree as well that I think the Kooks get a bit of a bum deal in terms of their rep.
Yeah.
Number 7. So this one's an interesting one. One thing I would say is I'd love to go to the weddings that you've been to.
This is the thing.
No, I'm telling you now, I don't think I've ever heard this at a wedding. But this definitely would get me up. So this is the question for this one was, what song never fails to get you on the dance floor at a wedding?
Now, I was so tempted to choose a disco song or a Motown song or something that's like a staple wedding song, right? And I don't like going to weddings. I tend to be very picky about whose weddings I go to. And if I do go to a wedding, I make sure that I can pick a few numbers that get chosen. So I always make sure that The Prayer by Block Party is played, because that song is, I was talking earlier about like tribal beats and dancing around the campfire, praying for rain. That song, when I first heard it, I didn't know what to think, because like I had, when I thought of Block Party, I thought of a very particular kind of like Gang of Four or Talking Heads kind of Franz Ferdinand-y kind of sound. And then they came out, their first single off of a Weekend in the City was The Prayer. I remember watching it just going, this is a genius move. Like this is totally different from what anyone is going to expect them to release. And it didn't go down very well. Like not many people liked it, but I fell in love with it to the point where every like indie night I went to, when I walked through the door, the DJ's like, Billy's here, I'm gonna have to put the prayer on, because it was my choice. And you know, the drums, the synths, like that synth line in the chorus is majestic. But the idea behind the song is about wanting to be on the dance floor, about wanting to be seen on the dance floor, and about wanting to be part of like a mass and movement of people. And it's got something like quite primal about it, but it's also really, really clever. So if I'm at a party and I'm all suited up, I am fully requesting The Prayer by Block Party. I'm going to make this a wedding classic.
Oh, good. Because I completely agree with you. And again, another track that I hadn't heard for a little while. I don't know why either, because I love that album. I mean, the opening track, is it Song for Clay?
I think that's the opening,
the build-up drum beat on that song,
Production's amazing. Like Jack Knife Lee did such a great job with that album, and I think he's sort of. I know that like Kelly's like a really clever guy, and he kind of knows what he wants, and I can like I've never worked in the studio with him, but I imagine he'd be quite particular. And when they said they were working with Jack Knife Lee, I suddenly got really jealous. I was like, I think this is going to be really good. Like, I think they've gone in a really good direction here.
Yeah.
So yeah, when there are some real killer tracks on that album, but when I heard that song, I was just like, this is getting that real. It felt like it was pumping through my blood, and it made me want to dance. And yeah, you know, when you ask for a wedding song, I was so close for "Don't Stop Me Now" by Queen or something like that, which is like an absolute classic. But I think, you know, I don't go to many weddings, and I'm going to try and start my own trend.
But at the end of the day, I guess that's the point, is that if you don't go to many weddings, not much is getting you up on the dance floor.
No,
So
that's
if
yeah.
they're playing the prayer, you ain't going.
No, that's it. Like if you got a DJ that takes requests, good. Okay. I mean, I DJ'd at Charlotte's wedding, and I absolutely jam packed it with Motown music and ended with "Don't Stop Me Now."
Yeah.
Like, so those were kind of like the ones that I was going to choose, and I thought, you know what, like that just feels a bit weddingy. Let's make weddings different.
Exactly. Right. So number 8. Let's have a quick look here. Right. Okay. Yeah. Interesting one. And again, another one that I wouldn't say it's the best song I've ever seen played in terms of my favourite I've seen played.
Yeah.
But when this band toured this album, they were an absolute powerhouse on stage.
Oh my God.
So number 8 is the best song you've seen played live.
Okay. So I grew up on you know, as I've said, like different kinds of music, but my sisters were massively into the Prodigy. I remember listening to the Prodigy Experience, and that's kind of like the soundtrack to my childhood from like 4 years old till I'm like 12.
Yeah.
And the same with Jilted Generation. Like, I grew up with those insane chord changes and, you know, this really sort of industrial sounding music. And then, you know, the Fat the Land came out, and I was a huge fan of that when I was in school. So I've been with the Prodigy almost my entire life. And so when we got the chance to play with them at these festivals, it just felt like a dream come true. We played a festival in 2013 called Cubana Festival in Russia. And it's a festival in the middle of nowhere. Like, it's kind of like this dust bowl. And there are just gnats, and it's crazy. Like, we came off stage and we had to shower the dead flies off of our body. Like, it's so swampy and that kind of thing. And we played our set and we had an amazing time. And we knew that Prodigy were playing, and it was going to be like the 3rd or 4th time I'd seen them play. So I was like, I'm going to watch this set from side of stage. And they all came on, and I could feel it in my body that this was going to be a really special show. And I'd liked the later stuff, but I'd probably never like it as much as I liked the earlier stuff. And then I was aware of Omen, and I heard the opening and I saw the performance after that, you know, the performance of Omen after that intro, and I don't think I've ever seen a performance quite like it since, or like I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like it before either. Because like there were like 50,000 people, and we're side of stage, and there's just smoke, and it's dark, and there are these blinking lights. But this group, I already thought that they were like the best live band in the world going. Like, they're unstoppable. And it's just such a shame that no one will get to see that anymore. But when this song played, I swear I bore witness to something supernatural, because the crowd were going for it, and like they usually do. But as soon as that like the lights went on the crowd, and it was like this orange. It looked like this fake sun had just lit the entire crowd up. And then you saw everyone on stage, Maxim, Keith, and they were moving as one. The guitarists as well. They were just like, they were this body that would just, it was like this. They were moving across the stage like a wave. And for that entire performance, I sort of entered a kind of trance, and I think I went exterior. Like my consciousness went outside my body and floated over the crowd, and it was just so special. And I've never quite got my breath back since that moment.
Yeah.
And now I can't listen to that song without that memory of just the greatest live performance I've ever seen in that one song, in that 3 minutes 40 seconds or whatever it is. It was just like the crowd, everyone side of stage, we were all just moving as part of this mass, this body, whilst this music goes.
I think that's the amazing
majestic
thing about live music, which is, you know, part of the reason I fell in love with the Subways, is that it doesn't matter what's gone before. It doesn't matter if you do or don't like an artist's back catalogue, or you're not a fan of their current single, or the direction they've gone in the last 5 years. What there's that adage of one gig can change everything. And I had always wanted to see the Prodigy. I remember I hauled up at my last ever, I think it was my last ever holiday I went on with my mum still living at home, and asked if I could bring a friend along. And we just sat and listened to Fat of the Land for
what a record,
in this like tiny little shack in Cornwall somewhere.
Wicked.
Until my mum shoveled us out to go and like sit and but yeah, that tour, and when they toured that album, I think, you know, they toured it for about 2 years in the end, I think. But I remember seeing them, I think, second headline at Reading.
Right.
And what was so powerful about that album is, was it necessarily their best individual songs? No, I would argue that things like Breathe and things like that had been better tracks, but it struck a chord at the right time. Like what we were talking about with Daft Punk and Deadmau5 previously.
They
had that appeal from both sides of the fence, the dance and rock. But they hit that sort of chord of electronic music moving into that new age of what is now EDM.
Absolutely. And that's why, like, some rock fans are big into EDM, is because you had crossover artists like the Prodigy that weren't quite one, weren't quite the other, but were something unto themselves, which made music that other people would not necessarily listen to suddenly become palatable. And that would be like a gateway for them. And that's why bands like the Prodigy are essential, because it's like, this is how genres merge and how people become more open-minded about different kinds of music. And the, you know, the merits of those kinds of music, there's something quite cathartic about going to a rock gig, but there's something quite spiritual and meditative about going to like a dance show, like going to a club or something, is that you enter this weird state that it's not dissimilar to like the kind of catharsis that you go through when you're in a mosh pit. You're not quite yourself, like you're something else, you're something bigger than yourself when you're part of that throng. And that's why, like, you go to if you'd have gone to a Prodigy gig, you'd mosh, but there was something spiritual about it. And that was beautiful people.
So big about that album is that Warriors Dance and Omen and things like that, they just I mean, at times it actually was using sort of an air raid siren style sound, but it had that almost call to arms to the crowd, and the crowd would respond. And I just it was like a sea. And when you say a sea of people, like you would say when you're stood on stage and you just see this sea of people, I don't mean like that. I mean as in a sort of throbbing, and everything sort of, and it just became one for like the whole. So I fully get why that would be something that, certainly from the stage as well, being able to see that would make that such a big live track for you. Number 9, So this one is favourite song for a sunny day.
Yeah. Now, I could have gone for a really sunny song. Like, I was thinking maybe like Boyfriend by Best Coast or anything off that record. Um, or like, you know, I'm a huge Dusty Springfield fan, so it could have been like I Only Want to Be With You. But I ended up choosing a song that makes me 'cause I don't drive, right? I'm a passenger, because during the years when I could actually afford to take driving lessons or buy a car, I was on tour and I was being driven around. And I'm 35 now, and I'm kind of like, eventually I will learn to drive. I'm sure I will, but I'm total passenger. So like, there are certain songs that make me want to wind the window down, sit in a passenger seat of a car, and just watch the scenery roll by as the sun's shining um, through the windows.
Yeah.
And it's "Are You Mine" by Arctic Monkeys, and it might have something to do with the fact that in the video for the song, there, you know, you've got Alex and Helders sat in the front seat of the car, and they're, you know, doing the drumming.
Yeah.
And the video takes place around a car, and maybe I've sort of created that association and tied it into my own life. But it's also because like this song is pure sing along, and it's like got this Zeppelin guitar lick to it, but at the same time it's got this real hip hop Dr. Dre West Coast kind of beat to it.
Yeah.
And the lyrics are kind of like, I don't know, Dylan-esque. It's like this confluence of all these various things going on. And it occurs to me that it's not necessarily a sunny song, but it's a song that makes me want to enjoy a sunny day.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing, is I think you quite often, when people ask you this, or you create a playlist for a barbecue or something like that, it's something that we've been discussing in a few of our videos previously on Beat Lockdown. But it's so easy to fall into that sort of sun trap of tracks that are traditionally played at these kind of things. And actually, like, everyone's individual. Everyone sort of has a different track that sort of gets them going for different reasons. And it's odd that you say about the sort of car thing, because for me that is one of the that was one of the only reasons that I had any interest in learning to drive, which I also didn't do until much later.
Right.
I was in my late 20s anyway, and still rarely drive now. But if there's a particular song, sometimes I sort of go, oh, I wish I could just get in the car now and put it up really loud.
Yeah.
For some reason that's acceptable, whereas doing that in a room in your house isn't.
No.
Neighbours and people that are like, what are you doing? Whereas I think it's that sort of either the solitude of being somewhere and enjoying the surroundings, or being in a full car with your friends, enjoying those surroundings, and a nice day, and knowing at the end of that that drive is a trip to the beach, or a gig that you're going to, or a festival, or something like that.
There's also, like, I think when you're in a car, and particularly like on a sunny day, and on sunny days, there's, especially if it's like a weekend, you're like, I'm going to do nothing today and I'm just going to enjoy the sun, and you just bask in the sun and you just enjoy the day for what it is. And I think when I'm riding in a car, because I'm not doing the driving, because I'm not concentrating or anything like that, I'm in like a state of transience where you're not quite in one place, you're not quite in another, you're constantly moving and you're constantly in between. So you're suspended, and you're in that place where you usually are when you're enjoying the sun. So you're kind of like, you're in a nothing state. You're just enjoying the state of being. And I think there's something quite like celebratory about being in a car and having the radio on or the stereo on and singing along with somebody sat next to you to a song as glorious as "Are You Mine" by Arctic Monkeys, which I think is like, not just, it's that, I believe it's their best song, and I don't think they'll ever surpass it. I think it's one of the best rock songs ever made, and I don't think anyone's going to surpass it.
It's strange, because I saw something, I think it was on Twitter a couple of days ago, where someone said that there'd been a public poll, and
Radio X had chosen. This is the weird thing, right? Okay, is that the reason that like Arctic Monkeys have been big all over the world, and they've always been big in America, but the song that broke them on radio was "Do I Want to Know," and so like for many people, it's the song by which they know Arctic Monkeys. It's like, oh, the band that did "Do I Want to Know," and I don't get it. Like, I like that song. I think it's a nice song, but it's by no means their best song. And I can't remember which song it was that won the Radio X poll, but I looked at it and I went,
it was 505 one.
505. Again, it's another one. Like when we saw them at a festival, it was the day when we were playing at the same time as Foo Fighters and not Arctic Monkeys. So I was like, right, I'm going to go watch Arctic Monkeys.
Yeah.
And they ended their set on 505. And I just suddenly, I felt like they're coming back on stage, right? Like, you know, I was lost for words. I was kind of, I didn't get it. Like everyone was just like, oh, that song. And I don't see it.
Yeah.
But I can appreciate why people see it.
Yeah.
But there is some, like, maybe it's because of the kind of music that I first got into, and maybe it's the kind of music that I expect to hear at the end of a set, or it's the kind of music that I expect a band to be big by.
Yeah,
I think God knows I'm no good at, like, you know, gauging that anyway. But Are You Mine is surely their best song. Like, yeah,
I think it's similar sort of thing to a track we actually mentioned earlier, which is Everlong. I know I'm chucking out a completely unfounded percentage, but I would say 90% of people would say, yeah, great song to finish the set on. But I know some people that are like, oh, why have they finished it with that again? Or and I think that's the thing, is I agree with you. When I saw that, I was like, really, 505?
Yeah.
And I think part of that is I've not seen them live in quite a long time.
Right.
And
because they're playing stadiums now, and it's a different gig.
Yeah. Although weirdly, the first time I ever saw them was second headlining at Reading in 2006, I think it was.
Right. I think before Muse. That was before Muse headlined. Yeah.
So yeah, it was an odd situation, because kind of similar to what happened with you guys at Noise Confusion.
Yeah.
I was seeing a band for the first time live on a big stage, so it gives a very different vibe to what you can get in a small venue. And some songs really worked that I now am a bit indifferent to, and some songs really didn't work that I know in a small venue that are way better. So it's it all kind of has to come together. But I completely agree with you. When I kind of lost my way with Arctic Monkeys for a little while in terms of,
it was the two records for me, Suck It and See and Humbug. That for me, they were like wilderness years records. But it's kind of weird, because at the same time, those end up being your favorite records. Like in 10 years time, you'll be like, I don't understand why I didn't get Humbug.
Or I think you need to be at a point in time, don't you? That's but then when I heard Are You Mine, I was like, oh wow, okay, they're back. Like,
me too. I was like, this is it. Like, this is
gonna be their record.
This is it. And AM is monumental album.
But yeah, so I get that one. I completely understand that. So last track for your playlist, I asked you to pick a song with your favorite guitar riff.
This is impossibly hard. And
I thought, this is a harsh one.
Like some questions can be evil, and this is an evil question. Only because, like, by the nature of the question, you have to eliminate so many options. But like, there's a band that I've grown up with that have totally, like, not just guided my love of music and informed me about like all different kinds of music in the same way that Nirvana informed me about, like, you know, Pixies and Sonic Youth and Mudhoney. But like, there are certain bands that have decided my political mindset, that have made me the person I am today. And one of those bands is Rage Against the Machine, and their absolute righteous brilliance. And the song with my favorite guitar riff, and I kind of, when I think of riff, I think of Tom Morello. Okay, I think of him as the guy who absolutely nailed the riff, because Zach de la Rocha is very much focused on the rhythmic aspects of like vocalization and rapping, and it gives Tom Morello so much more scope to work with the melodic aspects of the song. So you hear in a lot of his riffs, okay, they're rhythmically brilliant and beautiful, and they work so well, and the syncopation here and there is great, but melodically he's gone, this is the musical theme that we're working with in this song. And I remember the first time I heard Sleep Now in the Fire, and I saw the video, and I know the video is directed by Michael Moore and it takes place on Wall Street, and immediately I was like, yeah, this is solid. But that riff, and it's kind of like it's a bit Have Love Will Travel. It's a bit Black Dog by Led Zeppelin. It's a bit like all my fate. It's kind of Def Leppard in places. It's got Hendrix in there. It's got like kind of Voodoo Child by Hendrix in there somewhere. So like and the beat as well, and the power, but also like the righteous anger that's woven into the fabric of the song that informs the riff, informs the anger within the riff, that makes it so powerful. So this song is never not on a playlist for me. Now and then I'll be like, I'm going to take Sleep Now in the Fire out of the playlist, and I'm going to put maybe like Balls on Parade on or something. Or some, I'll try and mix it up, maybe Renegades of Funk, because I love a good cover as well. But Sleep Now in the Fire always makes it back on. Because it is just so.
I think one of the things that I because again, another track that I hadn't heard in a while when I sort of put the playlist together to have a listen, and one of the things that immediately jumped out to me is the not necessarily initially the riff start, but the bass and drum breakdown in the middle, and then the reintroduction of the riff on its own.
Which I used for We Don't Need Money to Have a Good Time.
Oh wow, okay.
You listen to the because it goes doing it all by itself. I know, before the last chorus. So
but I think that's it's a relatively underused technique within the creating of songs. But as somebody who, when I went, right, what instrument am I picking up when I was in my mid-teens, I picked up a bass guitar. I'm a sucker for songs whereby you can hear a heavy bass, Reptilia by the Strokes.
That is not just a bass line that covers the low frequencies. That is a line of melody. Like the guitars are doing Julian Casablancas' job as much as he's doing it. Like and his melody by itself in Reptilia is incredible. But like the musicality of Reptilia is like, you play it at any DJ set, people who don't even know the Strokes will be like,
wow,
what's this?
Exactly. And it's and exactly why I also love Chris in Muse, because he's just got that. He takes the bass from being a functional element of the song to being something that becomes part of the music concoction, and at times leads that. And that's why one of the things I love about in this particular song is that section of the breakdown between, and you can just envisage the song being played live, and the bassist and the drummer whites of each other's eyes back and forth, and then the riff comes in on its own, they're straight out at the same time, and it's just such a powerful when you talk about the kind of shivers up the spine kind of moment, that contrasting moment within a second.
And also in the very last section of the song, now like the drums get do 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 do, the bass is going do 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 do, whilst Tom Morello's going da na 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 na. The last 8 bars, the bass suddenly joins the guitars, and you were given a glimpse of what the song could have been if the two were in unison.
Yeah.
But it knows how good that section's going to be all by itself.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, within those last like 4 sequences or so, the song just gels, and then it stops, and then you're like, play it over again.
Yep.
Magic.
And so yeah, I completely understand why that is your favorite guitar riff.
And we were due to play Reading Festival on the same day, Reading and Leeds festivals on the same day as Rage Against the Machine. Unfortunately, it's been cancelled, and I was so looking forward to this because I was going to go up to them and go, "Are you playing Sleep Now in the Fire tonight?" And if they weren't playing it, I was going to put it in our set. Oh. I was going to get us to do it because I can't have that song not played. If Rage Against the Machine are in the room,
yeah, because I mean, obviously, with the current situation, who knows what and when we're going to. And it's obviously only this week, I think, wasn't it, that Reading and Leeds was announced?
Yeah.
Although,
and it was out of their hands as well. I mean, it's kind of like, you totally understand. We've got gigs scheduled September, October, and I'm just like crossing my fingers that things are going to be okay. But
I'm crossing my fingers. I've got tickets.
But the idea of congregating people in a space, it's like at the moment we're just hopeful.
We had because we had tickets to the Bristol show.
Right. Yeah.
Now down in Devon. So Bristol show is still sort of the middle ground to be able to get to it. I think it was about a week before it was cancelled or postponed. Sorry. We kind of sat down and had a chat, me and my wife, and said we're not going to be able to go because I suffer with asthma. So
you just got like there's nothing more important than your health.
I was in that throes of, and I was like, oh, do you know what? This is one of my sort of albums that I always said to myself, if you ever do a tour, there's a Young for Eternity anniversary tour.
Yeah,
I'm there in a heartbeat, and sure enough, bought tickets immediately. And then when you postponed it, I was like, oh, thank God.
we were having. I know we were having such an amazing time. There are some songs that are on that album that have never played live. Songs like She Sun, that when we played them, we were like, what have we been doing the last 15 years? Not playing this song. Like this was made to be enjoyed playing live, but you
might see a very close second to With You has always been Somewhere.
That's always we were enjoying playing that so much.
I think my wife is almost sick of that tune because
I'm so sorry to your wife.
Playing it. But yeah, so well, there we go. There is the 10 tracks. So I will be popping that playlist up on Spotify for people to be able to download and listen to.
Excellent.
I'll also cobble together a version of it on YouTube. It only remains to say thank you very much for joining us and supporting our new channel.
Well, good luck with everything, and it's a real pleasure to be a part of it. And thank you for asking me to do the interview. It's been a real
pleasure.
Joy.
Pleasure is all mine. Thanks very much, Billy, and thanks for joining us today.
Take care, James. All the best, mate.